I blew it up. What is up, boys and girls? Welcome back to Redwood RC. Last week you saw that we blew up the transmission on the Deadbolt, and that's not something that I wanted to do, but hey, you know, I was distracted, having a good conversation with a buddy, and wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. The truck got real bound up. The back wheel got caught underneath a root, and I just hit the throttle, and you know, your strongest long chain is only as long as your link or whatever it is.
Okay, well, I'm just one of the links in the chain, but a link is only as long as your longest strong chain.
I blew it up and it's broken and it doesn't work anymore. So what we're gonna do is replace it. And yeah, it's another Enduro product, but hey, you know what? It's a high quality product for what the cost is. And that is an important factor to me. So what I've got here is the LCG, the low center of gravity transmission. This is the clear one. It does have an aluminum backplate, but it is mostly plastic. You can see through it, and this is gonna solve a number of problems for me. So why don't we pull you in a little bit closer? We'll take a look at what we got and pull the truck apart, see what we broke, what kind of damage we did, and what the benefits of this are gonna be. And then we'll go ahead, take it out on the trail and see how it does compared to the stock setup. So let's get into it.
You know what they say, team? Good things come to those at the gate. Let's see if it's true.
First step, I think, is gonna be to pull this thing apart and see exactly what we blew up. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't had this truck apart. It's been a little while since I've had it out on the trail. And all I know is it stopped moving and the motor kept spinning. So we're gonna find out together. This stock transmission was something that I wanted to replace actually for quite some time now. You can see it sits very high in the chassis. Even with a battery in place here, it's still one of the higher components. And especially when I want to move to a more scale body, which I absolutely do, I'm gonna wanna move this motor setup forward, maybe do like a pre-fixial style separated motor transfer case setup. I'm not really sure. But for now, what I want to do is bring the center of gravity down, get rid of this bulbous slipper clutch. It's not necessary. In a truck like this, I do not want a slipper clutch, so we'll get rid of that. We'll lower the center of gravity, replace the stripped out screw that's in the bottom of this, and fix our blown up whatever we've done, all at the same time with one simple part. So let's get this apart. We can see what we've done to it. We can see what kind of damage this new 550 motor caused, and then we'll see how everything goes together from there. So let's get into it and we'll pull it apart. And luckily for us, that is one of the most simple operations you could possibly do on this truck. So we've got that. Let's get this out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and get this chassis cleaned up. There are still a number of things that we need to address on this chassis, but for now, that's not our main concern. What we do care about is this. So let's get this out of the way and see what we got going on. All right, so here is our motor and transmission setup. It's been a little while since I've pulled this apart. First step, I guess, is gonna be, let's see if we blew up the spur gear or the pinion gear. No, so those appear to be intact. Pinion gear and spur gear look perfectly fine. So I guess we blew up something inside the transmission. Let's pull the motor off and we'll find out. All right, so we've got a number of things here. We've got a rusting bearing. This bearing is completely seized. So that, let's see if we can pop that out of there. Yeah, that completely seized up. So that's a problem. And I'm not sure if that, I mean, it's been seized for a while. There's a lot of wear and considerable scorch marking on the inside of this. So this has been seized up for quite some time. Waterproof truck, definitely not waterproof. You can see we've got a lot of corrosion and such inside the transmission here. And then it looks like this intermediate gear was the one that failed. You can see it's been totally chewed apart. It does still spin, so that one's still good. There is a little bit of grease in here, a little bit. You know, these are plastic gears, so I'm not sure how much grease you actually need, but regardless, we've completely stripped all the teeth off of this side of this little intermediate gear here. Looks like this gear on the back side of the spur gear is fine. That's a metal gear, doesn't seem to have been affected at all. The spur gear is totally fine. And that's something that I thought about in this process. You know, I could have gone ahead and replaced these transmission gears with a metal gear set, which is a very common upgrade for these trucks. And that would have solved this problem. But then I still have a plastic spur gear and a slipper clutch, which is something I really don't want. A very bulbous housing, very tall. This kind of precludes you from running any sort of interior on any truck, whatever body it is that you pick. The height of this slipper clutch housing, just totally ruins any sort of interior prospects you might have. And on top of that, I have a strip screw in this housing, so replacing a metal gear set would not have solved all these problems. It would have got my truck back on the road, but that wasn't all I was after. Here we have our locked sort of differential gear set. This looks pretty much fine. Nothing really to say about that. It does have some rust on it from that bearing. And like I said, I have no idea how long this bearing has been seized for. I mean, I've had this truck in the water a number of times, so I'm not sure when it stopped turning. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of movement in it. Yeah, no, that's seized solid. That definitely contributed, I imagine. So let's get this cleaned up. I'm gonna get the chassis cleaned up, and then we'll come back. We'll go ahead and install that Endura transmission. We'll take a look at what it comes with and what we need to do to it to make it work in this chassis. So be right back in one of these. And just like that, we are back. Chassis all cleaned up, got everything disassembled. There was a considerable amount of mud and rust left over on this thing. Make sure you guys clean up your chassis in between runs, all right? So this is what we got. This is the Endura, the LCG, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. This is their standard SCX10 1 and 2 transmission. And this is a 2 gear, I guess, technically. Not the 3 gear like the factory setup. Although I guess technically it's more like a 4 gear in the factory setup. This runs the motor straight in through the transmission here. This gear is your output. So I think this ratio is actually a bit lower than the factory setup, if I remember correctly. So that'll be nice. And it does have a full aluminum motor plate. So the motor mounts to this, transmission mounts to the chassis. That transmits all the load through this aluminum housing. So you don't have just this clear acrylic to worry about, which is great. Not really sure how this is supposed to mount. It looks like it puts the motor backwards. Let's do some Googling. All right, after a little bit of research, I did find out that my skid plate is in fact in the right direction. It's not backwards. Kind of thought it was for a second. But this Endura transmission will only go in the one orientation. It's not quite their fault. The factory bolt pattern is unidirectional, I guess. However, that does put the motor facing backwards. We have this big heavy weight hanging off the back of the transmission, impeding with my rear links, the drive shaft. Not real happy about that. It's also hanging off the back. Bias that weight towards the rear, not really a good thing. So what we're gonna do, since we can't just turn the transmission around, that would hang the motor off of this side. Also, it won't bolt down where it needs to go. We have to turn the whole skid plate around, which, you know, I'm not entirely sure it wasn't meant to go that way in the first place. If you look at it, we have these hard edges to get hung up on, whereas on this side, we have these sort of beveled edges. However, with the 3-link setup, as it comes with, it looks like it's designed to be this way, which I'm pretty sure it is. And this is the way it's shown in their photos and their diagrams. Yeah, whatever. We're gonna turn the skid plate around. We're gonna mount the transmission. That is going to necessitate cutting out the rear of this battery tray, which is fine because we don't really need it. 3S batteries that we've been running this truck on are considerably shorter than the 2S ones that were run previously, so we can just hack the back of this off, no problem at all. And we should, in theory, be able to mount this setup. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Might need to do some trimming here and there. However, we're gonna figure it out. So let's get into it. I'm gonna disassemble the suspension here. We're gonna pull out the skid plate, turn it around. Then we'll get the transmission mounted, see how everything fits. So let's get into it. All right, so now we've got the motor bolted to the new transmission. I went ahead and greased it up with some red axle grease. These are metal gears, so I don't see any reason not to grease them. We do still get to see them spin. So this way, we've gone ahead and flipped the skid plate around so it's facing the opposite direction, which I think actually probably is a little bit better. We have this angled surface here in the front, which is going to contact the rocks first instead of this hard surface here. So I think that's actually better, even though that's the reverse of how they show it on their website. But that does allow us to mount the motor forward. The main problem with that I can see is going to be this battery tray for sure. So let's go ahead. I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to just cut the back of this battery tray off. So let's go ahead and trim that and we'll see how it goes from there. So that's just kind of roughly hacked off. I know I'm going to need to do some more trimming, but I just want to see where we're at so far. Now, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to have to remove this cross member or trim it heavily. I think I might just have to remove it altogether. Well, let's find out. All right, everything is back together here. We've got the skid plate flipped around with the upper link moved to the other side. I think it won't interfere with anything. I think we're all good on that front there. So now the last stop, I believe, is going to be to get this guy dropped in here. Go ahead and Go ahead and get our drive shafts in place. And then we will drop the motor in here. Everything should, in theory, bolt up. No questions asked. Just make sure I'm in the right spot. There we go. All right, there's 1, 2. And we'll go ahead and get this one into the aluminum. One more into the aluminum. Some Loctite on there. Perfect. Go ahead and reconnect our transmission, or go ahead and reconnect our motor wires. And that is it. Man, that is perfect. We got our motor lined up nice and center here. Battery will still fit in the battery tray. Almost all the weight now is biased fully forward, and we've replaced our transmission. We lowered the center of gravity. This, I think, yeah, you see here it interferes. This drive shaft interferes. All right, well, we've run into a couple of problems here. Actually, really just one problem. This motor, I think, is just too big to work with this transmission. So the problem we've got is it's binding on the drive shaft. I even flipped the skid plate back around, flipped the transmission back around. The only way the motor and transmission sit is in this orientation. You have to flip the whole skid plate around if you want to turn this around. Either way, it binds on the drive shaft. Real bad. Almost worse in this orientation than forward. So yeah, I'm not particularly happy with that. This seems to be a common issue with Endura products. They're not really all designed to work together. They sort of, it seems like, just design a product and put it out without any concern as to whether it works with the rest of the products in their line. Also, slight cracks forming in the base of the transmission already. So overall, not real happy with this. I did go ahead and just slap everything back together so I don't lose anything, but I am gonna have to figure out something here before we can run this truck. So not real happy with that. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.